The other day, my son and I were in the side yard digging a hole in the ground to take the dirt from there to fill in holes in the front yard. Now, obviously, we want the front yard to be more presentable, more flat, more even, since that's where the children play with. And so we're taking dirt from the side yard where it wasn't going to matter that much and transferring the dirt over. And while we're sitting there digging, my son asked me the wildest question. He said, "Dad, so we're digging here, and how long do you think it would take for us to dig out of the earth?" And that threw me, for a little sideways loop. And I was like, "You mean how long do you think it would take for us to dig through the earth?" And he kind of scratched his head and he said, "No, how long would it take for us to dig out of the earth?" And all of a sudden, in a wave, I began to understand that this very unique child of mine had seen things opposite of the way we do. And I asked a few clarifying questions. I'm like, the earth is a ball, right? He said, "Yes." And I'm like, "And we're standing on the surface of the ball, right?" He's like, "Yeah." But he had always seen it inverted, as if there was a hollow ball, and I don't quite understand how he conceptualized the sky above and not being able to see the earth above him as we stand inside of a ball-like structure. Maybe the space was so vast in his mind that you couldn't see through the sky to the earth on the other side. But he basically thought that we were standing on the inside of the ball, and that if we were digging, we would eventually dig our way out of the earth. He had a concept in exact reverse of what it was. Now, I need your help. This video is going to be destroyed. It's going to be wiped out. It's going to be censored, etc., because I'm going to share some truth and some straightforward understanding on a matter, and it's going to be killed. So if you will like, subscribe, share, post this in some other areas, maybe the truth will get out to more people in a timely fashion than just being held back. Because I'm telling you, last time I made a video even about how to raise kids in a masculine manner, how to raise boys in a masculine manner, immediately there were invisible comments that popped up and the video got shut down. That's the day and age we live in, is the day and age of censorship. So what you do with the little buttons right there at the bottom of the screen in the next few minutes really matters, because this is on a timetable. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, in the near future, there won't even be a timetable. As soon as it posts, it's going to be screened and it's never even going to get launched. That's the way everything is heading, especially when we begin to have everything screened with artificial intelligence. So as I'm sitting there looking at my son and he's kind of confused, I had to explain, no, we're standing on the outside of a ball. He's like, oh, it's brand new information for him. And if you think that everybody has complete thoughts on concepts just because they're an adult, that's not the case. Myself being a thinker, I can assure you that most people don't spend a lot of time thinking. This is one of the reasons why 80 and 90% of people don't really like school is, we're forced to think. And as soon as they can get away from school, sure. And this reason we don't do homework and we don't read after college even. We're only going to college because we have to make a living, but we really don't like learning and thinking. So humanity has some incomplete thoughts. Well, all of us, and intelligence aside, all of us get confused on math concepts, on direction, on understanding complicated philosophy, etc. And considering that I have thousands, I would say into the tens of thousands of hours of time spent with children and raising my children, considering they've always been homeschooled and I've always been home with them, except for a few brief years where I was out in the retail force. But I've been home with my children and I've seen them go through all these phases. I would even venture to say I have more time with children than those that get their doctorates studying children. I might have more time with children than even teachers that only have children for a class period. because we're around them around the clock and we're with them through developmental stages, not just third grade, let's say. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, every child at some point is going to go, am I my sex? I'm a boy, but am I a girl? Can I be a girl? Or a girl like, hey, can I do boy stuff? And there is this learning experience within the child that is trying to figure out their place in the universe. Now, interestingly, right here, it doesn't matter if you're a creationist or an evolutionist. You have this in common. This is so crystal clear. Obviously, if you believe that God created us, then he created male and female, like he said. He created and still creates when children are born. He gives them a sex. And if you believe this whole hermaphrodite hype, if you begin to study in that, even hermaphrodites have a dominant sexuality where they do have some disfigurement, but they have a dominant sexuality. Check into that. So God gives us certain direction. You might need to see my other video. You might not be even able to double check some of this stuff now that Google has limited all the searches. That's just an aside. But it's referencing my other video. So as these children go through these phases of trying to figure out where they are, if you believe that God created them, you believe God created male and female. Now, when you jump over to evolution, and this is one of the reasons I can't grasp and I can't grasp it while I'll never agree with evolution, is because I can't grasp the logic of this concept. But if the females reproduce, then there really is no sense for there to ever be a male. In fact, it seems kind of silly. Like, it seems like nature would have learned at some point that the male was unnecessary for development. And in fact, the whole birthing process probably came as one entity spawned another entity from itself. So it was probably just the female dynasty line at first. And why did the male ever come along? I'm sure somebody's going to try to rationalize a reason for that, but there really is no reason that the male and female qualities couldn't be hybrided together into one person. But even evolution saw a reason or a purpose, per se, to create the male and female sex. And so male and female sex is something that the common person admits to. They can see readily there's a difference between up and down and cats and dogs and rough and soft. There's this immediate difference. Like, all of us see delineation. If you can't see delineation, you would go mad. You'd go insane. Life would be so bland, etc. There's all these other problems. But the male and female are quite distinct. And what's really interesting about all of this is that anytime there's a male that wants to be a female, like, they start picking up the female qualities, like, immediately. They start wanting to wear their hair long. Or if there's a female that wants to be a male, immediately she starts wearing male clothes to get away from her femaleness, which further promotes the idea of division. There is a difference between the two. You never see anybody go towards some third extreme alternative to identify themselves as, because we don't even know what that looks like. We don't even know what that is. So how do you properly gender your children? How do you know and guide them in the right sexuality? Well, creation or evolution. What were they born as? If it's born as a male, then you should probably take them towards the male path. And if they're female, you should probably take them toward the female path. I say probably with 100% certainty because, again, every child at some point is going to engage in the neutral things of life. Like, let's say riding a bike, that's not male or female. Riding a bike is neutral territory, but at some point they're going to begin to cross over into the other lane. And with a little tiny bit of guidance, you can guide them back and say, hey, that's not who you are. You need to identify this direction. Now, if you further want to understand this, if you want to know why everything's falling apart, it's because parents aren't giving definitive roles. Sadly, I even spoke to a gentleman just a few days ago. It's like, he told us, he's like, you're one of the only family models that work that I really know of. And I was just shocked by this. I'm like, what do you mean we're the only family model? Like, he doesn't know he doesn't know of a modern family model where there's like man, woman, married with children that is functioning right. Everything he knows of is divorce and single people with kids and homosexuality and living together conditions. That's all the people that he's exposed to. Now, that doesn't mean that's all there is, but in his universe, in his world, that's all he's been exposed to. He's like, oh, there's still marriages and children? He's like, wow, And he actually said, you give me hope, because I didn't know that worked anymore. I didn't even know that was a thing. So if you want to understand why children are vacillating, it's because they don't have any identity. They don't know what to look up to. They don't have someone to be like. Now, you think about this. When I played basketball, what did I do? I looked for role models. In my day and age, it was Michael Jordan. You wanted to play like Michael Jordan. And if you didn't want to be the most popular, you were like, well, I want to play like Scottie Pippen, or I want to play like Charles Barkley or Shaquille O'Neal. But you looked to somebody that was very similar to yourself, but in an advanced state, and you say, I want to be like them. If you were into bodybuilding, you'd say, I want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. There is nothing wrong with that. We see that all over the world. Like when children set their goals and their sights, they're like, I want to be like so-and-so, and I want to be like so-and-so. In occupational fields, none of us ever care. We're like, hey, that's great. You should do that. You want to be the president of the United States? Go after that. No big deal. You want to be the CEO of this company? Great. Go after that. Well, if we see that in the children, and then there is nothing wrong with the parenting model of a mother being the idol of her daughters or the dad being the idol of her children, except that, and idol is too strong of a word, being Christian, I should say role model. But if we take that out, like we have with all these broken homes, of course the children don't have a clue. Or if you have a dad that works all the time and the son's like, I don't know who to model myself after. I just don't know who to model myself after. Or if you have a girl whose mom's not in the home and she's like, I don't know who to model myself after. No wonder there's all this confusion. When we get the family model right, there's definitely not as much confusion. But as far as properly gendering your child, you're not going to go wrong by pushing them towards where they are the most advantaged, which would mean that if they are female, then they are the most advantaged to be female, and they're extremely disadvantaged in trying to be male. And if they're male, they are most advantaged to be male and extremely disadvantaged to try to be female. And in every other category and area of life, we are trying to gain advantage. Why would we ever want to disadvantage our children? So, to get it right, let's build the family models right. Then the children will have role models. They'll know this is a male, this is a female. I want to be like the males in my family. I want to be like the females in my family. And on top of that, do children go through small phases of confusion? Yeah, all of us go through some phases of confusion where we don't know up from down, right from wrong, this from that. And with just a minor tad bit of coaxing, someone can be pushed back on path. I forgot to research this lady's name, but one of the head feminists in our country is now exposing the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, etc., for helping to propagate this idea of trans children and letting them be whatever. And the reason for that is heavy profits on medicine, on surgery, on therapy, on reverse medicine, on reverse surgeries. The head feminist one of the head feminists in our country has revealed that. And as you know, Christians and feminists are on opposite sides of the fence most of the time. But we can both see clearly on this matter. So how in the world do we gender our children? Well, if they're male, push them toward being male. If they're female, push them toward being female. And do so without any shame or regret.